Hi everyone, it's Elsie, editor for World Aviation Festival. Welcome back. And today I'm very happy to be joined by Bobby Healy, co-founder and chief technology officer of Meili. Welcome, Bobby. Lovely to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
So just to start by talking a bit about the general consumer landscape, how is the trend for friction-free free booking, which is a big topic at the festival this year? How is that changing traveller habits and expectations when it comes to how they, choose experiences?
Friction-free booking to me is more about trust. And so the trust is a big word. The trust drives immediately conversion. And there's definitely a recognition, I think. I've implemented over 120 different airlines, different ancillary platforms. And always there was this issue around, particularly in car hire, where a typical consumer would visit 5 or 6 different websites before they would make a transaction because they just didn't trust that they were getting the right product or the best price or whatever. So friction-free is more about, it's not a technology thing, it's not a speed, it's like the number of clicks you have to do. It's nothing to do with that. It's about the consumer feeling like they're in the right place, they're in trusted hands. If they buy something here, they're safe, they're not going to get a better price anywhere else, and they're not going to get a bad experience. And that does involve a lot of technology, and involves a very strong partnership between the distributor, the airline in our case, the technology layer, and the marketplace underneath them. So in our case, car hire companies. So again, it's about kind of implementing trust rather than reducing friction.
Okay. My next question, you touched on a bit there, talking about the sort of historic use of car rental, but why do you think car rental might have typically been overlooked in the past as a source of ancillary revenue, and how are you trying to drive that change?
Yeah, car hire was always there. It's in the top 3: hotel, car, kind of change places, then insurance. The problem with car hire is it drove such negative reaction and response post-purchase. So like more than half of car rental bookings come with a call to a call center of some form, and a complaint and an insurance scam or whatever. It's just an industry with an awful reputation that means that straight away the consumer has their ears up, their antennas up, and they're worried. And if you're chasing margin in the car hire business, if you're a broker, let's say, and so your goal is to maximize your margin on the transaction, the net kind of the requirement there, or the result is that you're going to give the customer a product that does not suit that customer. You're going to give them a low cost operator, with an old car. They're going to upsell you a horrible insurance product. You're going to get this awful experience in the pursuit of margin. And by the way, pursuit of margin is not a bad thing, but the reputation of this kind of what I would call the bottom dwellers in the car hire industry has really damaged its credibility. And so if you're an airline with a brand to protect, and you have a loyalty program, and you care about your customers, even if you're a low-cost airline, you still don't want that blowback in the newspapers and the media about this awful car hire experience. So that's held car hire back, and it's kind of made big brands like airlines reluctant to really push it on their customers. And so like that, Meili was created because of that. Like myself and Mike McGurty, when we co-founded it a number of years ago, we'd been doing car hire for 15 years prior to that, and we had a lot of experience in it. But it was a common theme coming back from our airline partners. I never want to do this again. This is awful for my brand. This is damaging for my brand. I'm not putting this product in front of my loyalty customers. So you would have seen our loyalty, the loyalty part of our airline customers having their own direct relationships on the side. And those are the customers that they really cared about and worried about. And then they would just use brokering for the slot, as I would call it. And we created Meili to fix that, basically give a high quality experience that generates actually even better conversion than brokering, and in a way that the airline shouldn't be ashamed to put it on their website. So again, it comes back to the word trust. We're implementing trust.
Perfect. Again, you start talking about it again at the end, but could you share a bit more about Meili, the kind of partnerships you've done, and what kind of success you've achieved in terms of overturning that history of mistrust?
We kind of, when we created Meili, we saw, look, the key partner here were big brands that really, the brand was as important almost as the bottom line, or at least they were very closely connected. And so we had loyalty in our sites, loyalty programs, the loyalty part of airlines and big airlines. So I was on the stage earlier on with Caroline from SAS. She runs their ancillary program. And we spoke a lot about, what type of an airline are they? And everyone thinks, oh yeah, it's SAS. They're I won't say legacy airline. They're a network airline, right? Their priorities are not necessarily on merchandising, all that stuff. But actually, they have the best conversion of an airline in car hire that I've ever seen. And I've implemented 120 airlines in the last 20 years. They're beating everybody.
Why do you think that is?
Because they've got exactly the right approach to it. They've brought on a bunch of trusted car hire brands with brand recognition that when consumers see the brands, they say, oh yeah, it's Hertz or it's Enterprise or whatever, Europe car. They see the brands that are important or meaningful to them. There's no shock. They tie it really well with their loyalty program, so there's an incentive to stay, and there's a kind of sense of the consumer is not just a transactional buying a flight, but they've got an entire relationship with that customer. And SAS understand that, and they've like I said, they've done a lot of work on the merchandising, on the tie-in to loyalty, but they focused on a direct partnership with their suppliers. And that means they have a much smaller set of suppliers, but ones that are very well known to all of their customers. And so that behavior where customers will shop around with 5 or 6 websites and end on, some broker website, that doesn't happen with SAS. I mean, and like I said, the conversion rates we're seeing, we've never seen them, particularly in Europe, but they're even beating American conversion rates, and US conversion rates are the highest. So we're very pleased about that, but we know it's happening because it's exactly why we created Meili. It's this new business model that aligns airlines, car hire brands and consumers in a way that's kind of not decimating trust.
Very interesting. And just a sort of final question in terms of the role of sort of third-party tech, ancillary revenue, how do you see that evolving moving forward? What is the next sort of trend that's going to change
On tech,
to Tate's business?
I mean, what's an interview without using the word AI, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot.
So there's definitely a lot of tech change coming. I mean, we benefit, Meili benefits from a more modern mobile environment. So you have in native mobile, you've got things like React Native and React and all these boring, nerdy kind of tech things that just make it easier and quicker. Then we benefit from cloud services, cloud architecture, cloud network. So what all this translates to is kind of a combination of a very fluid digital interface for consumer to book and a very low cost of operation for Meili and our partners. So the commodity cost of hardware, GPU, CPU, storage, all that stuff is nearly zero now. So in a lot of cases with legacy, particularly in travel, which has a lot of legacy underneath it, you almost derive the user interface because of the legacy request response interface and a very expensive request response interface. What I mean by that is you can power a high look to book ratio, in a way that's natural to a consumer. And so you're not presenting consumer necessarily with the right information, you're providing with them the best information you can based on the cost of providing that information. And like in the last platform that I built in car hire before Meili was tied to those legacy systems, and it meant that you just couldn't naturally do that kind of really tight bond between loyalty and car hire and make it sensible to the consumer. You were always saying, please talk to my mainframe to get your information. So the current state of the art of technology in travel industry is now we've at least don't suffer from that. And then we're going to iterate through AI where for sure the early adopters will be looking to make transactions on ChatGPT, and they'll be looking to use agents for all sorts of stuff, but they're a very small minority, and that's going to play out over a long time. So the real impact of AI and LLMs and anything related, even neural networks, is really about reducing costs and optimizing an existing system. I think if I think about it in 10 years time, none of us will be using booking engines. We'll definitely be using agents, but it's like 5 to 10 years. 5 where they're realistic and viable, and 10 where they're ubiquitous and they're more than 50%. And that'll be an interesting world because their disruption is coming to everybody. Disruption is coming to the big hotel companies. It's coming to, and that's a negative disruption for them. It's a negative disruption for aggregators, brokers, all those guys. But I think it's a very positive disruption for direct, so car rental companies, airlines, because the agents that do transaction and discovery on behalf of the consumer don't need aggregation. They are the aggregation layer. They evaluate the options for their customer, for the person that they're working for, the humanoid that they're working for. So I'm very excited about that, and Meili is all over that, by the way. We've got agents, we've got an eye on it. It's not going to replace our core business now, but I do think the world is going to go to an agent representing a consumer, discovering travel products and experiences and making most of the decisions for them. And that's, I think, a very positive thing for the travel supply industry, car rental companies, hotels, airlines, and a very negative thing for aggregators.
Okay. Very interesting vision for the future.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts today, and yeah.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.